Usually when we go to see a magic show, there is this unspoken agreement. You take your seat, the lights go down, and you just willingly let yourself be fooled.
Right. I mean, you literally pay to be deceived. That illusion is the entire point of buying the ticket.
Exactly. You watch the magician pull a rabbit out of a hat, and for just a second, you suspend your disbelief. But imagine if, like right before the show, someone pulled you aside and handed you the magician's personal rulebook.
Oh, that would ruin everything.
Right, a manual that mapped out every false shuffle, every hidden trapdoor, every tiny sleight of hand. Because once you know exactly how the illusion is crafted, you can never really look at the stage the same way again.
The magic is gone, yeah.
The magic is gone, but the mechanics of the trick become, I think, infinitely more fascinating. And that is exactly what we are doing on today's deep dive. We are cracking open a rulebook just like that, but not for stage magic.
We are getting into the real tricks.
Yeah, we are decoding the dark arts of marketing and persuasion. We're looking at Dan Lok's manual, Influence.
Which is such a fascinating read because what's fascinating here is that these tactics operate on the exact same principles as a magician's sleight of hand.
Right.
It is entirely about directing attention, bypassing your logical filters, and making you believe you arrived at a conclusion entirely on your own.
And our mission today is to pull apart these so-called forbidden psychological tactics. We want to see exactly how marketers bypass our rational brains to trigger emotional buying decisions.
Because they work universally. And they work because they don't actually target your intellect at all. They target your biology, your fundamental human instincts.
Yeah. So by the time we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
you are going to be able to spot these invisible forces operating on you every single day, making you a much savvier consumer or, a far more persuasive communicator.
Oh, for sure. You'll definitely see the trapdoors.
So let's just jump in.
Okay.
Before a marketer can even begin to build a relationship with you or pitch a product, they have to grab your attention.
Yeah.
And the fastest way to do that isn't by presenting a logical argument, right?
Not at all. It's by hijacking your biology. They go straight for the most primal, baseline triggers ingrained in the human operating system.
Which are?
Greed, ego, and fear. Let's start with greed, or what marketers sometimes call the gimme, gimme more factor.
I love that name. Gimme, gimme more.
Right. It sounds cynical, but the underlying premise is that consumers, at the end of the day, simply do not care about a company.
No, of course not.
They don't care about a brand's corporate philosophy or how many years of sweat equity went into designing a product.
The only question playing on a loop in the unconscious mind of the buyer is just, what is in it for me?
Exactly. And marketers lean into that heavily. Think back to Ivan Botusky's infamous 1986 speech at UC Berkeley.
Oh, the one that inspired the Greed is good monologue in the movie Wall Street.
Yes, that exact one. Botusky essentially told a crowd of business students that greed is a healthy, motivating evolutionary spirit.
Wow.
And master marketers adopt that exact same lens. They do not view greed as a moral failing. They view it as a biological drive for resource accumulation.
So it's just nature to them.
Right. They know you want more, faster, and easier.
Mm.
And they position their pitch to feed that specific evolutionary hunger.
Okay, but appealing to raw greed only gets you so far. I mean, right. Sometimes you have to make the buyer feel like they are fundamentally better than everyone else. Which brings us to the ego.
Status.
Yeah, status. Marketers manipulate ego by manufacturing the illusion of superiority and exclusivity. Like, imagine walking into one of those ultra-trendy, minimalist boutiques.
Oh, I know the ones.
You step into this massive, beautifully lit room, and there are literally only 3 dresses hanging on a single rack in the dead center of the floor.
It creates this intense aura of rarity. When you buy one of those dresses, you are no longer just buying dyed fabric and thread.
What are you buying?
You are purchasing the feeling of being part of an exclusive private club. You are buying a tangible elevation in social status above the crowd outside the window.
Okay, wait, let's unpack this for a second, because I have to push back on this idea that we're all just driven by greed and ego.
Sure.
If I walk into that store, logically, I know that dress was mass-produced. I know for an absolute fact there are 10,000 of them sitting in a shipping container somewhere.
Yeah, you do.
So why does putting it alone on a rag still trick my brain? Are we really just that vain?
Well, it isn't vanity, actually. It's a conflict between 2 entirely different processing centers in your brain.
Okay.
We all desperately want to believe we operate like Mr. Spock from Star Trek.
Oh, right, pure logic.
Exactly. We want to believe we evaluate all the data, weigh the pros and cons, and make a purely rational choice. But human biology is wired in the exact opposite direction.
We are definitely not Spock.
Not even close. We make decisions emotionally in a fraction of a second based on those primal triggers. The ego-demanding status or the fear of missing out.
The emotional brain acts first.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then, and only then, does the rational prefrontal cortex wake up to desperately search for logical facts to validate the choice we've already made.
Oh, wow. So you see that lone dress? The emotional brain screams, I want to be exclusive. You decide to buy it instantly.
Yep. The decision is already made.
And then your logical brain scrambles to justify the price tag by thinking, well, the stitching is very high quality, and I do have that wedding coming up next month.
You are using logic to justify a purely emotional reflex.
That is wild. We are constantly reverse engineering our own choices just to feel smart.
We really are. And if greed and ego aren't enough to trigger that reflex, there is always fear.
But this isn't necessarily the fear of a monster in the closet, right?
Yeah.
In marketing, fear is usually about pain avoidance.
Pain avoidance or the terror of losing the status quo. A perfect historical example of this is how the firearms industry navigated the late 1990s.
Oh, the Y2K stuff.
Exactly. As the year 2000 approached, there was massive panic surrounding the Y2K computer bug. People genuinely thought the power grids would fail and society would collapse.
Yeah, people were terrified.
And gun manufacturers saw record-breaking sales during this period because they weren't selling the mechanical features of the firearms. They were targeting a deep, primal fear of things getting worse.
Right, tapping into that biological imperative to protect your family from chaos.
And the amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, it processes the threat of losing what you already have much more intensely than the prospect of gaining something new.
Loss aversion.
Exactly, loss aversion. Marketers know that painting a picture of painful loss will motivate action far faster than promising a benefit.
Okay, so they hook us with these primal triggers. But eventually, the Spock side of our brain does wake up. Right, you look at the price tag or you read the extravagant claims, and skepticism naturally kicks in.
It always does.
So the marketer's next hurdle is disarming that incredibly strong defense mechanism.
And there is an old quote from an 1899 congressman that sums this up perfectly. He said, "I am from Missouri. You have got to show me."
The Missouri Principle.
Right. That is the foundation of modern skepticism. We live in an age of constant hyperbole, so our baseline assumption as consumers is that everything is exaggerated or just a flat-out lie.
We assume everyone is trying to scam us.
Totally. So to tear down that wall, marketers have to provide proof.
And one of the most effective, almost invisible ways they manufacture that proof is through herd mentality.
Oh, this is a great one.
Think about what happened when that Japanese cream puff chain opened its first location in New York City. To get people to trust a totally unfamiliar product, they quite literally paid dozens of people to just stand in a massive line outside the store on opening day.
Which is brilliant because it completely short-circuits the need for individual evaluation.
Yeah, passersby didn't stop to ask what the ingredients were or pull out their phones to read reviews. They just saw a block-long line and joined it.
Because if we look at the evolutionary psychology behind this, herd behavior is a survival trait.
How so?
Well, if you are a prehistoric human and you suddenly see 50 people running frantically in one direction, it is biologically safer to just run with them.
You don't stop and politely ask if anyone saw a saber-toothed tiger.
Exactly. Popular with other people equals good for me. It bypasses the rational filter entirely.
But there's another tactic used to disarm skepticism. And this one, it completely upends how we normally think about selling.
Yes, the strategy of actively volunteering your flaws.
This one blew my mind.
The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Conceal a flaw and the world will imagine the worst." And modern marketers use this by literally writing copy that highlights their own mistakes.
Right, like you'll see an email that says, our ordering department totally screwed up and ordered way too much inventory, so we are forced to liquidate. Or, we had a flood in our warehouse and the boxes got wet, so we're slashing prices.
Yeah.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. You're telling me that actively pointing out your own company's mistakes actually makes people want to buy from you.
It sounds totally absurd, but neurologically, it is brilliant. Think about why you doubt a massive sale in the first place.
I mean, my brain's alarm system goes off and says, this is too good to be true. What is the catch?
Exactly. Your brain starts aggressively hunting for the hidden danger. You assume the product is garbage or it's a scam.
Right.
But by voluntarily admitting a flaw, the marketer hands you the catch on a silver platter. They say, here's the reason for the discount: our ordering department is terrible at math.
Oh, wow.
Suddenly your brain's alarm system shuts off because the threat has been identified and explained. It provides a logical, highly believable reason for a massive discount.
Which builds instant trust. Because in a landscape where every single brand is pretending to be flawless, someone stepping up and admitting a stupid mistake feels incredibly, jarringly honest.
Unshakable trust, yes.
You start thinking, well, if they're willing to be honest about this embarrassing screw-up, they must be telling the truth about the quality of the actual product.
They short-circuit the alarm, and once that trust is established and the walls of skepticism have been lowered, the marketer changes tactics completely.
You don't need to shout anymore.
No, they transition to guiding the buyer silently, using subconscious psychological nudges to close the trap.
The sneak attacks.
Yeah.
And it all starts with manufacturing curiosity.
Because curiosity is biological. It's an itch that demands to be scratched. The human brain simply hates an unresolved question.
It's why marketers use incredibly vague but suggestive subject lines or headlines. Phrases like, someone spilled the beans, or for your eyes only.
Right. Just hearing the phrase, someone spilled the beans, you feel this physical urge to know what the beans are. You just have to click.
But the rulebook details something even sneakier than cliffhangers embedded commands.
These are fascinating.
These are tiny visual cues, like using italics, underlining specific words, or using strategic capital letters right in the middle of a sentence.
The idea is that these cues bypass the conscious mind entirely and slip direct commands into your unconscious.
Explain that. How does that work?
Well, think of your conscious mind as a strict bouncer at the front door of a nightclub, checking IDs.
Okay.
When you read a paragraph, the bouncer is evaluating the overall logical meaning of the sentence. But those italicized words, they are slipping through the back door while the bouncer is distracted.
Sneaking it.
Your unconscious mind picks up on the emphasized words as direct subliminal commands, creating positive expectancies without you ever realizing you are being directed.
So they're quietly planting ideas in your head while you think you're just reading a standard product description.
Exactly.
But I think the true masterpiece of this subconscious trickery is what's known as the commitment ceremony. The story they use to illustrate this is the old fable of the camel's nose in the tent.
Such a great metaphor. So a wandering camel asks a man if he can just stick his nose inside the tent to keep it warm.
Just the nose.
Right, it's a small, harmless request, so the man says yes. But then the camel asks to just put his head in, then his neck, then his front legs.
And before the man knows what happened, the giant camel is entirely inside the tent, and the man has been pushed out into the freezing cold.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And marketers use this exact same process.
So it's basically like leaving a trail of breadcrumbs into the dark forest. You answer one harmless question, you click one button, and suddenly you're at the gingerbread house, handing over your credit card without realizing how you got there.
Sales professionals refer to this as the incremental close. They don't ask for your money right away because that triggers the Spock brain's alarm system.
Right, that's asking for the whole camel at once.
Instead, they ask a peripheral, easily agreeable question. Like, are you tired of feeling sluggish every afternoon? You think, yes.
Sure.
Would you like to discover a simple way to get your energy back? You click yes. Every small, painless yes gets you mentally invested before they ever ask for money.
You are building a habit of agreement.
And it triggers cognitive dissonance. Humans have a deep psychological need for consistency. Once you have said yes to 3 or 4 small things, your brain aligns your identity with being a person who agrees with this marketer.
Oh, I see.
Saying no to the final purchase would contradict the identity you just spent the last 5 minutes building.
Plus, like you said earlier, the human brain hates unresolved questions. When a web page asks a simple question, your brain is forced to mentally answer it.
It pulls you from being a passive observer into an active participant.
It is terrifyingly elegant when you lay it out like that.
It really is.
We have covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about weaponizing primal biology, using herd mentality and manufactured flaws to build trust, and leaving psychological breadcrumbs to get us to quietly commit.
We are deep in the weeds of manipulation.
So what is the absolute most powerful tactic in this entire 47-rule manual? Ironically, the ultimate weapon requires abandoning everything we traditionally think of as sales.
Tactic 47, customer-focused selling. or CFS.
Explain that one.
Well, for decades, the aggressive mindset of marketing was ABC always be closing. Just hammer the prospect with the pitch until they finally break.
But the new mindset is different.
The new, much more dangerous mindset is ABCF always be customer focused.
The profound shift here is the realization that the best marketers are actually the best listeners, not the best talkers, right? They initiate a mental dialogue rather than delivering a monologue.
It requires a complete paradigm shift. Instead of shining a massive spotlight on how incredible your product is, you turn the spotlight entirely onto the customer's specific, unique problem.
There is an excellent example in the text about a wholesaler trying to sell a massive shipment of widgets to a retail store owner.
Yes, a traditional salesperson might assume the retailer only cares about how popular the widgets are with the public. So they just pitch popularity over and over again.
But the retailer might actually care about shelf life. Or they might be stressed about restocking schedules or payment plans.
And if the marketer only talks about how popular the product is, they lose the sale. They are aggressively answering a question the customer never even asked.
So what does this all mean? If you don't actually pitch your product and try to close the sale, how do you make any money?
By focusing entirely on solving the customer's unique problem, rather than shining a spotlight on your own product, you stop looking like a sales shark. You become a trusted advisor.
It's like going to a doctor with a terrible pain in your knee, and before you can even speak, the doctor just starts bragging about this amazing new headache pill they have.
The perfect analogy. The pill might be world-class, but it doesn't solve your problem.
Oh, no.
When you focus entirely on diagnosing where their knee hurts, you transform your image. If you correctly identify their problem and show them you understand it better than they do, you don't even have to ask for the sale.
They just trust you.
If the fit is right, the customer will actually pull you into their buying process and close the sale themselves.
Because at the end of the day, people just desperately want to feel understood. Let's take a breath and look at the journey we've just been on.
It's been a ride.
We started by looking at how marketers leverage our primal greed, our ego, and our fear. We saw the strange power of admitting flaws to manufacture trust, and the sneaky use of embedded commands.
The breadcrumbs.
Yeah, the breadcrumbs of the commitment ceremony. And finally, the ultimate paradox selling by simply refusing to sell.
And this is why decoding this rulebook is so crucial for you, listening to this right now. You are subjected to thousands of these meticulously crafted psychological messages every single day.
Thousands of them.
By understanding these 47 tactics, the overwhelming noise of modern marketing transforms from a manipulative trap into a fascinating psychological game.
One you can now observe, dissect, and use to protect your wallet. Or, to effectively pitch your own ideas. It all comes back to the magic show. Once you read the rule book, you can never just watch the performance the same way again.
You see the sleight of hand right in front of your eyes. And that leaves us with a rather profound question to consider.
What's that?
If our brains are this easily hacked by a few italicized words, by manufactured scarcity, and a strategically admitted flaw, how many of our daily decisions are genuinely our own? And how many are just the end result of a carefully orchestrated commitment ceremony we never even realized we attended?